I can't turn myself on here. Okay. Hey. Sorry, guys. I'd like to open the Tiverton Town Council meeting of June 15th. Please stand for Pledge Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Go ahead, Joan.
Counselor Paul?
Present.
Counselor Edwards?
Present.
Counselor Janet? Present. Counselor Edwards?
Present.
Counselor deMedeiros?
Present.
Counselor Burke?
Present.
Counselor Milburn is absent.
General business, Council President deMedeiros, discussion and possible vote on FY25 Unified Budget. I've passed all of these out to you. I'm going to speak and then I'll let you, I just have a proposal, and I know some of you have other thoughts. This clarifies what monies we have. In the APRA funds, we have 1.5 million. Now keep in mind, that is for the landfill. That's put aside right now, and the landfill closure may cost more than that. Casino revenue for 2023, we have 3.196 million. Casino revenue 2024 to date, we have 1.6. Keep in mind that this is lower than to date last year at this time, although the state has to give us 3 million. So the total casino revenue that we have on board right now is 4.796. Out of that, we made a preliminary commitment to buy the pumper truck for the fire department out of that money, which the number I got from Chris is somewhere around 900,000. So we're going to pay cash and not loan that out. Also, keep in mind, the school committee has already given us their safety needs and given us a proposal. And Diane and I had a conversation, and she has sent it, that they're taking some of their general expenses and requesting it for casino that they feel is a one-time. So that brings their proposal roughly around $1 million, I think, but I have to sit with the school committee to make sure that's true. So out of that total casino revenue, we're already taking out about 1.9. The general fund has $2,380,000 in it. That's above the 3%. And that is already taking out the 1.5 we have voted to do. Above 3%, I know that people think that that money is disposable. Most towns have about 10% in general revenue that they can pull out in case of an emergency. The 3% would carry us about, I don't know,
3 weeks.
3 weeks if we had a disaster. So, and it's been this council's wish to try to increase that. And then we have a capital reserve account. And that at this point has $417,000 in it. So, I was looking at the budget, and the town council still has capital in the budget. So if we pay off the ladder truck, which is $716,895, and we pay off the streetlight conversion, which would be a total of $173,849, and then all capital casino will pay for. This will help for the payments every year. The savings on this year would be $154,000 in $154,28, which I am proposing that we add to the school department budget at this point. Now, this will not affect the tax rate at all, because we're taking that amount out of our budget and putting it there and paying off all our capital. The only thing we have to pay attention to, and the treasurer is looking this up for us, is the prepayment penalty on the ladder truck. There is none. Perfect. She's just telling me no. So that would be the 154. Now, Councilor Burke just brought up that we don't believe, is Deb here? Deb Polish? Yeah. We don't believe that the school committee's budget right now includes the money that Jay Edwards gave us? No, no. Right, it's an additional allocation. But, I mean, when they presented the school budget the other night, was that in their monies? It was in it. Oh, no.
The 33,608 includes 147?
Okay. So far, that's what I'm proposing. And it does not affect the 2.9% tax increase. I'm going to have every counselor talk. If I do want to make it clear, and Chris reminded me of this morning, that if we change any of our decision here today, it still has to be approved by the state and come back to us. They may find some error in our calculation, and we may have to have another meeting before the deadline of the budget.
I just want to ask that question again,
know.
because this document that we published was before the legislature passed the final budget. In that final budget, my understanding, there was a $147,000 increase.
Yep.
So that 33,608, I don't think reflects that $147,000 increase.
I don't think it does either, Deb. It might reflect what you said the other night, but not the numbers that we're calculating. Yeah, I think this number's a little different, because this was published before. I do have this sheet up here if anybody would like to see it.
Madam President?
Dave, that's what I'm doing now. I'm going to you, and you may speak.
Oh, perfect. Well, no, I just had a question, because I know at the last school committee meeting, the superintendent also said that at that point, he had not touched his savings account, which no one's
His
ever,
fund- his
no
fund
one's ever
balance.
for wiping it out completely, but I don't believe he's touched that yet either. I understood that the counter to that was that if they had a boiler issue or something, but I would counter to
Yeah,
that.
I did. I
False.
think you're right. I think you're right. I watched that meeting twice now to try to figure it out. But I think you're right. I don't think they've touched their fund balance either. You know, I want to make it clear. The council took 1.5 million out of the general fund, which we did with a lot of hesitation. We did it because our general fund is there, but we still feel that we need to increase that 3%. But we did that in order to do what we've done with this budget. That was the only way that we could give the schools and the town what they needed. David, would you like to speak?
Yeah, you touched on everything so far. The only other thing that I was looking to address would be more clarification for the public on the town-wide evaluation increasing by $1 billion, which is essentially because people came into town, paid a premium for homes, free market, supply and demand. That's all fine and dandy, but we still can't go over the 4% cap.
Anything else that you wanted to say? No, speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay. Well, that's not true. I'll let you speak again. John?
So, as I mentioned the other night at the hearing, it seems like the school number is sort of this ethereal thing. We've gotten a number of emails from people who, you know, they all say the same thing, which is please consider, you know, supporting and funding the schools. But it's hard for us to know up here what that number is, which is why I asked the question at the last meeting, what is the number to keep Fort Barton open? And School committee wouldn't do it. So I went back and looked at a couple of their meetings. It was about 3 weeks ago. The superintendent gave an update on where they stood with the budget, and at that time, he said they were about $546,000 short to keep the school going. So using some basic math, they pulled $285,000 out for capital. So that's the textbooks and the computers. So if you back that number out of, the 285,000 out of 546, it leaves us with a delta of 261,000. So I'm going to assume, based off of their meetings, I would have really liked if they had stood up in front of us and told us publicly that that was the case. But I'm going to assume that that $261,000 delta is the money needed to keep Fort Barton open as a school. And if we were to go along with the capital plan, as you just outlined, Madam President, it would be an additional $106,972 on the total budget, which would bring us to an $11.10 per thousand rate and a 3.16% increase. If another $106,000, and bear in mind, I'm getting to that number based off of the fact that the 154,028 would be part of that allocation. So 261,000 on top of the 546. If that's the number to keep Fort Barton open, I think we should look at doing that. But again, I don't know what the school committee's doing.
So, John, it's 285 that they're pulling from capital. I just added 154,028,
Yep.
okay? And then if Representative Edwards' number is not included, which we don't believe it is,
Correct.
we are very close to the number. Am I correct?
So if the state,
I'm adding it up in my head right now, but I'm going to do it.
yeah, if the state number was to be included in that 546 offset, then they have the money in-house
Yeah,
already.
it's 592,000.
It was 592 is what they said? I thought it was
No,
546.
all together with what I've proposed,
Yep.
with taking capital and with the 143, it comes out to 592 additional that they'll be receiving.
Okay. I'll have to double check your work there, but yeah.
Well, I did it in my head, but I
Yeah.
just did it on paper.
Well, just because it's 147 for the state fund.
Well, then it's even better
Yeah.
than what I'm saying. It's actually 599 almost.
Yeah. The bottom line, at least in
It's
my
600,000.
at least in my perspective, is if we do something along these lines and we get to 3.16% to get them the dollars that they need, for anybody who's watching at home, if they still go ahead and close Fort Barton, that's on them. That's their decision. That's not for lack of trying from us.
So we have committed without a vote. We did preliminary votes on the casino revenue so far. But if this all works out, and we did decide as a committee that the pumper truck should be paid for cash, but we just haven't made that decision yet. And we are committed. It was a suggestion to the school committee that anything that did not appear to be, whatever appeared to be capital, please pull it out, and we will pull from the casino. But that is preliminary also. We have to vote on all of this at some point,
Yeah.
which will bring the casino money, with my proposal, low. They'll bring it to below 3, I think, maybe.
Yeah.
But keep in mind, we're still accumulating that until December, so we'll have more money.
I would also add one thing there. I mean, I understand it was preliminary, and we had the ask for them to move that 285 out of the budget and into capital. But at least from my perspective, I feel like we've been sort of negotiating here in good faith, and it would not be my intention to break that good faith.
Councilor Janik?
So obviously, we've heard from a number of parents, teachers, and I just want to set the record for the casino money. People say, we have this casino money, why is it not lowering taxes? So the decision was made to utilize casino money for one-time purchases. About 5 years ago, this Councilor Edwards and I were on the Budget Committee, and casino money was new. And we did utilize casino money, and the state then reneged on the casino money, and we had to pull money out of the budget. So we did make that decision to make it one time. And that's why we're using it for capital. That is why the taxes are what they are, and they really haven't raised. So, just so that people understand that. Last night, I did spend a lot of time, thank you to the Celtics, gave me the whole night to go through the budget. I went through the school committee budget line by line, looking for, from my perspective, anything that could have been cut, any kind of capital. And because I'm not an educator, I don't know what is mandated by the state, by federal, and it looks like capital items were pulled out, and I couldn't really find anything else. But the cuts all seem to be frontline staff. They're all people who work with the children. A lot of specialists that we really need for our kids. My heart went out to the math teacher who had gotten pink slipped, and if we don't get math in the middle school, these kids are never going to get it in high school. If they don't get the basics in middle school, they're not going to get the trigs and the algebra and whatnot in high school, and they're not going to be able to figure out that formula, that funding formula, which we so desperately rely on. So I'm all for working to make sure that our kids have what they need, because I don't think that we should be doing our budget on the backs of our kids. And I really feel that we've worked to be able to do that. But I will have an ask for the school committee, and that they really look next year. You know what the funding formula is. Plug those numbers in. If your numbers of students are dropping, plug the numbers in. It shouldn't be a surprise when the state gives you the funding, the drop or the increase or whatever it is, so that we know and we can stay within that budget. That's what our promise is to the taxpayers. That's what our promise is to our students. So that's what I ask. Thank you.
Councilor Edwards?
Hi. I'll try not to be too long-winded. Some of what I'm going to say here, others have already said, but I've got a list, so I'm going to stick to it. So if we pay off the ladder truck and the street lights, we'll take $890,754 out of capital. That will free up $154,028, which I am in favor of turning over to the school department, as long as we actually pay cash for a pumper truck and do not finance it. Because right now, the ladder truck has got about a 3% interest rate. A pumper truck in this environment would probably be 6%. I don't want to go there. I know Chris Cotta did a lot of work on this budget, and he has his views on revenue, and I have mine. So if you go to the budget and you look at line item 4677, which is inspection fees, I think we can increase that by $50,000. I think line item 4999, which is miscellaneous revenue planning, we can increase that by $10,000. I think we can reduce bulldozer repair, which was $25,000 in the last budget. We've still got $21,000 left. So I think in the new budget, we can allocate $10,000 or reduce it by at least $10,000 and save that. And I think investment income, it's always a nebulous figure, but I think we could probably comfortably add $100,000 to that. So if you add all that up together, I think we could increase revenue estimates by $170,000. That could go to the school department, and it would not change tax rate at all. So that would be a total to the school department of $324,028 sitting here today. Keep in mind, any allocation to the school department will add to the MOE next year. My personal opinion, based on students leaving the district, the valuation of the town, the increase in salaries for people that aren't working for the town, I would be very amazed if they did not take another $500,000 away next year. That's just my personal opinion. So if you thought 1.2 was bad this year, add another $500,000 yes. Next, we'll do what we can to make it up this year, but what are we going to do next year? On top of that, we also have the issues with our first responders. That's going to get added to the budget. We don't know exactly how much is that going to be, but it's going to be a lot. It has to be. Also bear in mind that when you're looking at the revenue that exists in casino revenue, we don't spend it in the year we get it. We spend it the following year. So while it may look like a huge number in there, we're only going to spend the 2023 portion. And then once the state actually does come through with 2024, that will be available next year, but not before.
Have you talked to the tax assessor regarding the revenue figures you're saying?
Oh, and also we're taking out of capital because the school department asked $285,861 for tech and books. The people you see sitting here today may not be the ones that you have to look at next year. I can't tell you what the next town council is going to want to do. I can only tell you what we're willing to do today.
Jay, did you talk to Dave Roberts about the revenue figures? Did you talk to about the increased projection of revenue?
No, I just told him I had some ideas on revenue that I was going to increase.
I do know that Chris said those revenue figures were conservative, but that's what we do every year because that's not money we know is going to be there right now. So just want to point that out.
Well, I do the same thing, but sitting here today, our revenue number is 400,000 to change. So I really think we can bump it up. I don't want to bump it up a lot, just in case. It's an election year. Who knows what's going to happen? Everybody reads the news. I mean, we could have the stock market could implode after the national election. Who knows? But
All right,
having said that, I think we can bump that up a bit and be in the same universe as reality.
Thank you. Council Burke?
Thank you. Before I speak, I'd like to suggest we adjust the non-local property tax revenue by the amount that was passed in the state budget.
What is that?
So the amount, my understanding, and I don't know if Denise, you have an actual dollar amount for Tiverton, or if one of the school committee members do? Yes.
What's the button?
It is now. The new school number that was published, I believe it was June 7th, was $5,850,781 was our new state aid number.
Okay.
So if you look at the published document for the public hearing, that's 5717,
Yeah, so
580,50,781.
what does that do?
She's getting to it. So Denise, what's the difference?
133,014.
133,014?
From the original, the published figure, because that was changed slightly from an increase that occurred sometime in May,
Okay.
a very small increase.
So that brings it to the 5,850,781.
Right, so if you are using our,
I'm looking at this one, but
right,
She has the more recent state numbers.
yes.
so it brings our proposed 2024, 2025 to what total?
So on the non-local property education revenue, it would bring it to 5850781. Correct, Denise?
Yes,
And would bring the education operations number to 33,741,228?
yes.
Yeah, 33,741,228.
That's without any changes that have been suggested right now. That's just the change in the updated education aid.
So that gave them an additional,
133,000, whatever that,
14?
14?
so added
Yep.
to what? So added to what John and I were talking about.
So I don't want to get into that.
Okay.
I just would like to make a motion that we adjust the non-local property tax education revenue to reflect the final state budget to be $5,850,781 and adjust the education proposed allocation total to $33,741,228. Did I get that right? Okay.
Yes.
Again, to reflect the change in the state budget.
Motion. Motion's been made and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
All right, thank you. So, I don't think we can provide as much funding as what supporters of the schools and the school committee want, but I think we can get closer. The difference now between last year's total allocation, state and local, and what is now on the budget is $523,118. I think we should cover that amount. How we do it, I'm open to figuring that out, but I think we should cover that amount.
What is that number again? I'm sorry.
$523,118.
I think we just did.
From my perspective, this is not predicated on dictating anything to the school district as to how they determine how those funds are allocated. I think the school committee members have been clear that they will keep Fort Barton open as an educational facility. What that means, that's up to the school committee, that's not up to us. And in terms of revenue projections, I am not comfortable with adjusting any other projections without our tax assessor providing us with input on that. I think that we need to rely on the experts for that purpose. So I would not be interested in doing that today. And then lastly, we've all received numerous emails from folks, many who want us to go up to the 4% cap on taxes. I'm not willing to do that because there are just as many people who have reached out to us to say even the 3% or just under 3% that we have on the table right now is too high. So I'm not willing to go above where we are in terms of the tax rate. So I think we need to find it from, whether it's from the moving funds out of the general fund or some other mechanism. And lastly, while I can agree this year to using casino revenue for the technology hardware and textbooks, I am concerned that these are generally normal operating expenses of a school district. So my concern is by doing that this year, are we creating another hole for next year of that similar amount? So that's it.
So, if you remove the capital from their account, it's 285. My proposal will be 154. And Representative Edwards' help is 147, that comes out to an additional $586,000 for the schools, which will do what Counselor Brooke just said, I believe.
Slightly more.
Slightly more. I'm not comfortable with the revenue projections unless Dave Roberts tells me that's okay, because we're going down a slippery slope with that. I will have to say that I will approve doing this, but whoever is in our seats and the school committee seats next year, please be conscious of what's going on right now with the state. And I really, I don't want the schools to come back next year and the deficit is higher. Whoever is on the school committee in November, please watch those numbers. Please, we can't tell you not to spend one-time money on operations, and I understand that. But up here at the town council, we've had 5 budget meetings this year. We look at every line item. We do the best we can, and I'm encouraging all committees to do the same. And we don't spend one-time money. That's why we have the money we have right now to buy capital for operation. We don't spend one-time money for operational. I agree that this is the right thing to do right now, but I want everyone to please be conscious that next year we have to pay attention to this. And as was brought up, state aid's going to go down. So we need a plan. And that's all I have to say. Anybody else?
Just one thing. As our president said, we need, let's call it, all budgeting entities to keep an eye on their budgets, but don't wait till next year. Start now. And start looking at them every month. And I strongly advise the school committee to publish this same document that the town does every month, so that everybody knows where we're at, so that we don't have to have what happened this year and every other year for that matter. We get into these tooth and nail fights about budget items, and really, nobody knew until it came budget season. It's too late. So please, encourage the school committee and anybody else in the school department to publish a monthly accounting. Thank you.
I do want to say that the town council's budget is higher than last year, but I think it's very public why. We need to stop paying our employees a little higher than what we're paying them now. So the town council has a lot on their plate, and we're trying to be as fair as we can to every employee and every citizen in this town. And I hope everybody understands that. So as long as no one else wants to talk, okay, go ahead, John.
Just quick question for the treasurer. The number you gave, that 5850781, that does not include the 147?
So John, the 147 was what I was hearing, so that's why I asked Denise to clarify what the exact number was. So the exact number was the 133.
So I'm not clear where the 147 is coming from. I use what RIDE publishes, latest and greatest, and that is what is on their website. That is what I read was passed by the House Finance Committee, and that is the number that I always use. So it
we
wasn't a
think that-
difference of 147, so that's throwing me a little bit.
Well, because that's exactly what, so the 147 may not be included in that?
So I just want to say, the other night when we were here, the number 147 was being thrown around as the increase from the original budget to the final budget at the legislature. I asked Denise to give us the amount that is published, which is the 133. So I think the 147 was just an estimate that somebody had.
No, it's what Jay Edwards texts me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I
It's-
think where that's
So
originating
that's
from.
why I don't know if, I'm trying to find his text right now. Jay said this is the number exactly, 147,535.
147,525. So if you go back to.
535.
535.
That is what he is telling me the number is that he got.
If we go back to the original governor's budget that was published in February to now, it's highly possible that the difference is 147. So the state aid numbers changed 3 times this year. I have the second change in the published document. Now we have the third change. I don't have the first number handy.
So
I'm going to go
what you're
look at
telling
it.
me is when I'm adding up, I can't count the 147. Oh,
Well, I'm looking at, that's why I asked,
Give
what
me a
was the
minute.
published number? I'm not
published
disagreeing
number
that
was
maybe
the
there was
second
another
number.
number that was thrown out.
Hang on.
well, the way that
Well, we gotta go
Representative
with- we gotta go with
Edwards,
RIDE, whatever they said.
yeah, but he's usually pretty accurate. He was always very accurate, and this
Why
is what
can't
he
I open it?
this is what he sent to me after the meeting. It doesn't really matter because this is what he got in addition, so.
We got a delta of
Wait a minute.
114,000?
Well, I'm looking at this House Fiscal's budget analysis right now.
All right, well, they're looking.
So I see that,
You're looking at the RIDE sheet?
no. Total education aid for districts for FY25, this is the House Fiscal's budget analysis, shows 5260331, which it can't be right because that's, oh, I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong line. 5242524, which doesn't, so I'm looking at the wrong chart for that. Sometimes these charts are confusing because there's multiple charts.
Denise, Todd's calling you.
Well, while we're looking at that, oh,
The first, while they're looking at that, the first motion I think we need to entertain is to I want to make sure this is okay, but is to add an additional 154.28 to the school department's budget by paying off the ladder truck with the number I have here, 716,894. And these numbers, like, let's, in the motion, we should put to be adjusted after the treasurer and the town administrator looks at it.
Can I just suggest that we're not, to be clear to the public, it's not an additional add, it's to address the addition to the budget by doing these things.
Yes. Well, that's why I'm just talking out loud now.
All right, I'm going
So-
to can I throw out a couple of numbers here?
What?
Can I throw out a couple of numbers for you right here?
Yep, definitely.
Okay, so the original governor's budget for Tiverton was 5697155.
Okay.
5697155.
Aye.
The third and final budget that we have available is what we were discussing earlier, 5850, 781. So there's been 2 slight changes. In March, they came out with another one, which was like 28 or 30,000 more. And then they came out with another one June 7th. So the total change was 153,626, which is why I don't know where the 147 is
Well, it's
originating
probably
from.
part of that.
Could be. I didn't know if that was something additional that Rep. Edwards had procured and it wasn't reflected here. So I only work with what I am given.
So, question for you on that then. So hypothetically speaking, let's say it is additional dollars, right? 147 is not contemplated in the number that you've given us. How does that work if that ends up coming in after the fact? Obviously, we transfer it straight to the schools, but if we didn't budget it in the total number, can they use it?
That's what happens.
It would just be like excess state aid.
Okay.
So we just turn it over to the school and they kind of absorb it into their budget. It happens when there's,
Oh, it's happened a lot.
it's happened before when we used to budget earlier. There would be a June change and they would just get it. But it's also happened the opposite way as well.
So that difference is 133,014. So there's still the question of that additional 14,000.
Everybody's,
I don't think,
the total difference is 153,626 from the original.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
what I'm saying is from what we published, the 5717.
Exactly.
The difference is 133.
no, Deb, come on if you want.
That June 7th that you're looking at,
Yep.
toggle all the way over, you'll see the 147. Go down to Tiverton.
Oh. Deb, you
I
can
need a
stay up
mouse.
here if you want to add more to this, okay? Just trying to help. Yeah, I know, thank you.
But that's not necessarily what you
So,
had published.
The 147, so if you add that to this number,
We are never going to get this.
right? What did I say, 153,626? 147. 34. 1,092. I'm wondering if the difference between those two numbers is the difference in the ESL, which is, it's not categorical, so it doesn't get counted in the aid. So if they change that between the two documents, that could be it.
So did your number change?
My number did not change. I'm not changing my number.
So,
I
but
think it
that
should be
140
5850, 781, which you voted on,
5850, 781.
right? That 147, I think, is the difference from the governor's number, and if we go back to the
And the other
governor's
change
number-
that, you said it changed by 20-something. Deb's shaking her head, I think she agrees. Yeah, she's right, yeah.
6,092
I'm not an
is the
accountant, I'm
multi-
sorry.
Yeah. There's a piece of the aid that they publish which is not included in the aid that we give to the school. It's like, it's a separate reimbursable item, so it's not included. So that difference of 147 is also including the difference between the multilingual learner category, which went from 6,092 to 4,985. So that's why there's the difference between my 153 and 147. But
that's
I
not
only look at the
considered-
state aid.
But you're saying we don't normally include that
No, we
in the
do
state aid
not.
local, the state aid
We
calculation?
do not.
For non-local
So I kind of
property?
ignore that piece, which what makes this document
Confusing.
confusing. And they've agreed with me, because I've written to them and said, and Bill Trimble, I think his name
Yeah.
is, was like, I agree, it is confusing. So,
Madam Chair.
Yeah,
thank you.
So,
If
it would
I almost
please,
brought mine, and I thought, I don't need,
I'm,
John, just talk, for some reason I can't hear you way down.
okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah,
All right. So if it would please the chair, I actually have a motion. to
Okay.
make. So I'm going to swing kind of everything we've talked about into one full motion. So first number,
let's try.
I'm going to try. So I make a motion that we reduce total FY25 proposed capital expenses to 0. So 154028 goes to 0. Then I'm also going to propose that we increase the local contribution for FY25 on the school, I'm sorry, in the increase in the local contribution to the schools from the highlighted 2% of 546,872 to 807,872, which represents a $261 or $261,000 increase.
Wait a minute, so where's the 260?
261 is the 546 that the school committee said 3 weeks ago that they needed, minus the 285, which they're going to take out and do in capital. That leaves a delta of 261, which really represents an increase in our number by 106,972.
I don't know if we have to change their budget for that 285. Oh, yeah, I guess we do. Yeah, we do. Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry, John.
We should have backed out 285 is what you're saying.
So,
Well, no, because it's all going to come on the wash. Okay, so,
yeah.
so that gets us a local contribution total of $28,151,448 with state aid of $58,50,781 for a total of $34,002,229, which would
We just did it, yeah. Well,
which would lead to a total budget, levy of real and tangible property of $43,094,109 and represents an $11.10 per thousand tax rate.
do I have a second?
I'll second that.
And now discussion. Mike?
So you're backing out of the budget that the school committee proposed to us, the $285,000.
Yes.
Okay, I don't know that I understood that as the intent of that discussion around that. The intent of that, I thought, was to hold them harmless for that $285,000 if we're going to use other monies to cover that, so they can use that $285,000 for other purposes.
Right.
But if we're backing it out of their budget,
He's not.
that's what it sounded like.
No. So just to clarify, I'm just not.
That's why I asked the
I'm
question.
taking, what I did is at the school committee meeting 3 weeks ago, they said they needed 546,000, rough number. And I'm assuming that 285,000 that we're going to do via capital, I'm subtracting that off of the 546 number because we're holding them harmless for that in their budget. They can repurpose those dollars elsewhere. So it's 6 of one, half dozen the other. All I'm doing is adding the 261,000 that between 285 and 261 gets them to the 546 number that they publicly stated.
But that's what was, so we're not reducing their budget, we're not taking that out of there.
No, that's.
But we did get a formal request to add that to the casino money, so I want to make that clear.
Yeah, as of right now, if we're looking at this, the existing 2%, the 27,890,447, that still has the 285,000 in it because the request came out.
Right, so all we're
We did this.
doing is adding the one,
I'm adding the difference between 546,000 minus the 285 that they're gonna make the capital request for.
wait,
Which is, the difference is 311.
No,
Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry, I did it
No.
wrong. No, my fault.
this isn't as easy as it looks, everyone.
yeah,
So can I ask a question?
261.
Yeah. Well, wait a minute. Yeah, we're still in discussion, go ahead, Jay.
All right, so the 200, actually, I'll round it up to 286,000 we're going to take from capital specifically. I thought it was specifically for tech and books, and that's all it could be used for, correct?
No, I don't know if it's just tech, well, it might be just tech and books. Yes.
The only problem I have with that is getting on the slippery slope of using casino revenue for operations things.
It's not, it's up to the school committee to decide what they feel in the budget
Okay.
would appear to be
So here's my
capital.
problem. They could take that $286,000 and hire 2 teachers.
So
Are you
what?
saying that?
So what? They have the 286, so what? They can do whatever they want with that. I don't know if it's hiring 2 teachers, I think it's maybe bringing back 2 teachers.
Well, you know what I mean, so.
Which, that's what we're trying to do here, guys. We're trying to help with their problem of large classroom sizes and other things that they have brought up. If the school committee chooses to take that and bring back these teachers, well, that's what they need to do. I can't tell them not to do that. None of us can tell them what to do with it. At least it helps them if we do this. I feel it does, and I think they had to agree because they took some stuff out. I'm just confused about the motion again, though.
You want more numbers?
Well, what we're really just doing is adding our capital to their budget. That's really all we're doing.
Our capital plus 100, my motion is our capital plus $106,972.
Where are you getting that money?
So it's $261,000, which again, the school committee said at a meeting like 3 weeks ago, they need $546,000. So I started with $546,000, per, I think it was the superintendent who said, this is how we keep the school open, minus $285, because that's already in the budget, but that's not going to go towards the increase because we're
Right.
pulling that out. And that leaves me with $261,000 is the difference. So the $261,000 subtracting out $154,028 for the capital leaves us with $106,972.
So the 106 would be the percent increase.
It would be,
Would bring them to 2.5 maybe?
it's a shade under 3, because at 3,
No, because
3 is
250
820.
is a percentage. So now you're adding 104. So in my mind, it's about 2.5% increase.
So, yeah, if you
Well,
will,
yeah, take out the 154. Okay.
that's why. So
That's why, because that's not taxable.
yeah, so the tax rate would be $11.10 per thousand. So it goes up from 1108 to 1110.
Yep,
It
okay.
increases the school to almost 3%, and it represents a 3.16% overall increase in the budget
Okay.
year over year.
Does that make sense to everyone? Mike?
I'd like you, John, if you could, walk it through, because other people in the audience
Sure.
have this document.
Yep.
Okay, so the document that says current and proposed budget FY25. So you're zeroing out capital general government.
Yep.
Right? And that would get added to the education aid, correct?
So you would have that plus if we're looking
Yeah,
at.
no,
it's
yeah,
probably
but
easier.
just
goes
walk,
down.
Yeah,
yeah, let's just go.
So
this is the formal.
you're
order.
not touching debt service. Are you touching general government?
So hold on, capital general government goes to 0.
Yep.
The next line, education, goes to 34,002,229. Not touching debt service, not touching general government, not touching finance administration, anything else thereafter. So the next one would be local property, that 42,987,137 goes to 43,094,109. So really, it's just adding, honestly, we're just adding 106,000 to the total budget. Well, 106,972.
So what our real motion is increasing the education budget.
Well, it's decreasing
And, yes, and decreasing capital.
34,002,229, John?
Correct.
So John's right, it would be a 3% increase, but we'd be taxing around 2.5.
And then the bottom, the total revenues number would go to 58,491,791. So the last number on this document right here, it would go to 58,491,791.
What does total
right here,
operations
zero it out.
become?
And it shifts over here. I'm
What
sorry?
total operations, the schools, total operation?
No, the bottom line, total operations under operations. Right now, it's 583848.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I just got it, we gotta add into that. Oh, actually, it should match up, so it would mirror 58,491,791.
Yeah, it'd be the same number.
It's the same number as the bottom one.
Oh, yeah, okay. What am I thinking?
I don't know. And I'm a nurse.
I knew that.
Yes, Mike, I'm
So
sorry.
that still would leave them $262,117 shy of last year's total appropriation, correct?
No, so the total education appropriation last year, right, that 264, 346, I'm going off of the local contribution.
No, I understand that. I'm just saying it would leave them shy $262,117 from the total appropriation
Yep.
from last year.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that goes directly to the state aid number where they got almost 7 million and now they're at
Oh,
5.8.
we have made up for a lot of the state aid decrease.
Yeah, it would be $807,000 over what we gave them last year. Pretty dang close to $1 million.
Mike,
Well, we knew we were going to make it all up.
Mike,
A couple of things. One is, while it's only a minimal increase in the projected tax rate, it is an increase. I won't vote for it only because I believe we should bring them up to last year's total, the $34,264,346. And I think the other cautionary piece is we cannot vote today. So it's an agreement in principle. We cannot vote today on anything that's not in the unified budget proposal. So we can't vote on using anything that is in this one pager that the council president put together for how to use casino funds and the like.
yeah, well, Chris told me we can vote. This is a tentative vote. He will submit this to the state, because the state is already approved of the unified budget that went up for public hearing. That's why we have to propose a new one. But Chris said it would be a tentative vote. We'd hear from the state as quickly as we could, and then we'd have to vote. We'd have to have another meeting and vote the tentative vote as a permanent vote.
Right, yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm saying we can't, today, these items are not on our agenda.
Oh, yes,
The
they are.
the use of casino funds is not on our agenda.
Well, it's the,
I'm not necessarily
I know,
disagreeing with
but
the
we're
intent.
not going to be able to vote on the use of casino funds until this is over, until our deadline's over. But but I think it says, discussion possible vote on FY25 Unified Budget. Can't we discuss on how we do that?
But we can't vote on how to use these today. We can vote on a budget, and anything that we decide to vote on the budget, and we can have an agreement in principle without a vote, that we're going to come back maybe at although the 24th meeting is very packed, and look at these for casino revenue, et cetera, but we can't actually vote on those tonight because they're not on our agenda today, this morning, not tonight. Is that accurate?
I don't know,
Yeah,
I guess. But this is a commitment. I don't want anybody, the numbers will be here, and we just have to do our due diligence. Maybe I'll have another meeting next week to do it, or I could probably put it on the June 24th meeting, because it would be a vote. Yeah, it'd be a vote, because we have to have a budget by June 30th, really. So we still have some time. And I could put it on the June 24th meeting, because I don't think it would be that complicated. I know, I have discussed all of this with Chris Carter, and he has agreed that this is doable. He's the one that's watching that casino money. So I don't think there's going to be a problem, unless one of us decides that they don't want to do this, or the majority does.
I have a question for Councilman Burke. You had said you wanted to increase the schools to what they were last year. But where do you want to pull that
I
money
would
from? Because you
From the
don't
general
want,
fund.
from the general fund? Would that put us below 3%?
No.
No, I would be hesitant to pull more than 1.5 million,
It would take us down to like 2,100,000 and change.
because keep in mind, guys, we have to make this up next year. We're gonna have to pull that out next year. And we don't know what next year will bring. I mean, I think 200,000 is not really that
That's
bad.
also what the reminder.
And I also think that maybe, and I'm not saying they won't, but maybe the school committee could look at their budget and, like Deb said, sharpen pencils like we did, and maybe find that money. Oh, not find it, but save that money.
Madam President, that's an addition to the 1.5 that we already took out.
Right,
All right, want to make that clear.
It would be
I'm not-
1,760,000.
yeah, I'm very hesitant to take 1.5, but we did it. So Mike, well, we'll vote on this motion, and then if it fails, then Mike can do his, you can still make another motion, correct? All right, so John's motion is there. Did I get a second?
I think you did.
David? Okay. Everyone understand the motion up here at the table? Motion's been made in second. All those in favor? Against? What-
I'd like to make a motion to further increase the appropriation, local appropriation to the, for education by $262,117 and use the general fund for that purpose. So it would be an additional $262,117 from the general fund.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'm going to second for discussion.
Okay. Discussion?
So, just so I understand the intent, because if we're swinging another 262,117, that would get us, we would jump if we did,
John, a little louder. I'm
sorry,
sorry.
if we did this and we didn't pull the dollars from the general fund, it would jump our tax rate up to $11.17 per
No, it wouldn't.
thousand.
No, he
because
said
did-
if we didn't.
If
use
we
the
did
general
not.
fund.
Yeah, use the
Yeah,
general
but that's, I'm not
Oh,
suggesting that.
all right.
Not
But he's not
suggesting
suggesting that.
that. My motion is to use the general fund money.
So he's not suggesting.
I think what he's saying is that we're already going to be at 1117 essentially for next year, before we do anything, next fiscal.
Say this again.
We would essentially be at 1117 starting next,
Sorry.
Oh,
Yeah.
next year.
yeah, with our own maintenance of effort, so to speak.
Yeah.
Not this year, 26,
Yeah, it would add to the maintenance of effort, yes.
Yeah,
our own, yeah.
yeah, it would add to the maintenance of it.
Our own, you mean the local maintenance of effort for the
Yeah,
schools?
we could always snip our own, but it would be them as well.
No, so the only maintenance of effort is to education. Yeah.
Correct, if we
And it's only a local. The state doesn't have a maintenance of effort.
I have one final question on this, because it shows here schools at 4% would be 1,093,743. But if we did the 262,117, as you suggest, we'd be at 1,069,989. So we're basically pushing them right to 4%.
But we're not taxing 4%.
Right.
Keep in mind, that's maintenance of effort. We just increased them to 4%. With everything that's been going on, I hesitate.
Me too.
But I think we've been fair. Anyone else?
As I said before, and I'll invite the few people that are in this audience to join me in this. You need to write your congressmen and senators and the governor. Something needs to be done about this, not just the maintenance of effort, which doesn't apply to the state, it should, but also these precipitous drops in state aid that occur. So I intend to introduce a resolution that says the state can't reduce it by more than 10% below the previous year. So we don't have these massive disasters on a town's budget that the state seems unwilling to recognize and absorb, but they do not. You know, the funding formula is just numbers in and numbers out. It doesn't factor in all that's been going on with the need for firefighters and police, the increasing population numbers that are on fixed incomes, even though their property values have doubled, their income has not. It doesn't look at any of that. It just comes up with a number which is just a perception of the town's ability to pay. Nothing more. It needs to be addressed.
I'm going to repeat what I said before. Whoever is sitting in these seats next year, not only these seats, but school committee seats, we need to really communicate a lot, pay attention to where the budgets are going, and have faith that everything's being done as close to fiscally responsible as we possibly can. Anyone else, Deb?
I just was going to say, I'm concerned about pulling more from the general fund because we still have tremendous cost on the municipal side with police, fire, DPW. So to increase the maintenance of effort for next year and not knowing where we are with all of those contracts at this point, I'm just hesitant to do that and put us in a worse hole next year.
John?
Would Councilor Burke be amenable to, instead of going to the 262,117, just do another 100,000 and pull that from the general fund?
If you would like to make a separate motion after that,
Okay.
I consider it, but I would like to act on this motion.
All right. Anyone else? Motion's made in second. All those in favor? Motion fails. Another motion?
Madam Chair, I'll amend, I will make a motion that we increase the revenue line item from 1.5 out of the general fund to 1.6 million, adding another $100,000 to the 807,872. By the way, this will put us right around 3.5% for the schools.
Second.
Any further discussion? Motion's been made in second. All those in favor? Okay. Now we have
do
to
you-
vote on,
Do you want me to run through the numbers?
please do.
Okay.
Yeah, please do. No, I think you should. Go
All
ahead.
right, so I'm going to make the motion for the
For the whole
whole
entire.
thing. Okay.
Tentative motion.
Tentative motion for the whole thing. All right.
And Joan, you have all this down, right? Well, yeah, I know, but we'll.
Joan, I'm
We're
gonna
gonna help
give you my
Joan,
sheet
I
afterwards.
promise.
I hope you do.
We're gonna help you. Yeah,
All right.
John's got them down. I've been writing them. I think we all kind of, go ahead.
All right, so the motion for the FY25 budget, I'll just go line by line. So capital education is 0. Capital general government is 0. Education is $34,102,229. The total operations is $58,591,791. The 591.
591.
791. And then the local property will stay the same. That's 43,094,109. And the total at the bottom is that same 58,591,791.
John, what was the local again? Local property?
The property is still $43,094,109, which represents a 11.10 per thousand tax rate. Total increase year-over-year budget of 3.16%, with the schools at approximately 3.5%.
Do I have a second? Well, that's
That's
the
my motion, yeah.
That's the motion. That's the motion to tentatively agree to this new budget.
I'll second.
Okay. Because this is what has to go to the state now, and hopefully they'll agree with our numbers. So I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Okay, and I think just a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Madam President, just real quick, I think we should give credit to Administrator Carter and Treasurer Surratt. The amount of numbers that we've had to deal with, and they've always come through. Treasurer Surratt, it's an email, and about a minute later, you got the information you need, so.
I had like a 45-minute conversation with her the other
Yeah,
day.
and the reason I want to say that is because you see a lot of stuff out there, and on the municipal side, if you have a number, if you have a question, just ask and you'll get the answer.
Who was there for me?
Anything else? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor to adjournment? Thanks, everybody.